You say that you are a clear, consistent, proven conservative. In fact, the most so in the field. Let's do a lightning round. Quick questions, quick answers about your rivals in the Republican field. And let's talk specifically about the conservative credentials or lack of same for the Republican frontrunners in the field. Rudy Giuliani, why isn't he a conservative?
Well, his stand on some of the social issues I think are going to be very problematic for conservatives. His position on the sanctity of human life, his position on same-sex relationships. Have a lot of respect for him. I don't want to minimize that, and he's a strong individual. But those are issues that are certainly going to be problematic within the Republican primary.
Now, you, before the debate, had compared his stand on abortion to slavery, saying, you know, it'd be like saying, well, I'm against slavery, but if other people want to do it, he said that's bogus because nobody is for slavery.
Well, but here's the point. He made the reference that he was opposed to abortion personally, and here was the catch, thought it was morally wrong. Now, my point was logically, and I'm an old debater from high school and college, Chris, so you always try to follow something to its logical conclusion. If something is morally wrong, then you should oppose it because of its moral impropriety. Now, if you say, I don't think it's morally wrong, therefore I can logically conclude that it's okay to have it. But once something has been deemed to be morally wrong, then it's like Wilberforce felt about slavery, and he didn't have a choice. He had to take the position of opposition. So that's why I think that you have to either say, I don't have a moral objection to it, and therefore I can conclude that abortion is okay, it's tolerable, or if it's morally wrong, then we ought to do something to make sure that it really doesn't happen.
John McCain.
A lot of respect for John McCain. In fact, you know, he's one of the targets. A lot of people are after him. But let's not forget something. He's an authentic American hero. On this Memorial Day weekend, I'm not going to say anything bad about a man who spent years of his life being tortured in a Vietnamese prison. And for him, I have the highest regard and esteem and respect.
But why do you think, and we all share your sentiments, but why do you think he's not a reliable conservative?
He's been in the Senate too long. You know, governors run something. They don't just make speeches and work on bills. They have to actually manage things. I think that's why 4 out of 5 of the last presidents have been governors. Again, I appreciate, even though I disagree with some of the elements of the bill, Senator McCain has at least worked on the immigration issue and has been pretty bold in putting a stake in the ground over it. You know, he's taking some political risk. But I think that anyone with a Washington address does not have the advantage going into this presidential race.
Mitt Romney.
Good friend, good colleague as a governor. Again, the challenge Mitt's going to have is defending the various positions he has. We have a saying in Arkansas that if you don't like the weather, hang around 5 minutes, it'll change for you. And I think the perception is that Mitt's position on guns, his position on same-sex relationship, his position on the Bush tax cuts, his position on sanctity of life, are all issues that there's been, you know, literally 180 degrees difference in those issues.
He says he's learned. He says his position is involved and like he's learned from experience.
Well, we all can have adult epiphanies, but I'm not sure how many we can have before at some point people begin to question, are we going to have another one in another couple of years?
And let me ask you about one candidate who isn't in the race, but apparently may be getting in soon, and he says he's going to be the true conservative, Fred Thompson.
Fred Thompson certainly will have a real presence in the race. You know, and I don't know enough about his record in terms of the issues, but, you know, I think any of us who are running have to recognize that there's going to be room even for more than the 10 who are already on the stage.
You didn't use the word flip-flopping, but that's in effect what you were saying about Mitt Romney. Some of your Republican rivals accuse you of flip-flopping. You oppose the immigration plan now in the Senate. You call it amnesty, but here's what you proposed for illegals in March. You're going to pay the fine. We're going to have a system that can be done in an orderly fashion, and you'll be able to be legal, but we're not going to let you off scot-free. As governor, you opposed making children of illegals, or rather you supported making children of illegals eligible for state-supported scholarships. You said that a bill cutting them off from welfare was race baiting. Aren't you a liberal on immigration?
No, not at all. I think that the first big mistake we've made is we haven't secured the border, which is the first and most important single step we need to take in immigration reform. You know, every time I get on an airplane at the Little Rock Airport, I'm forced to show my photo ID, go through several layers of security. I don't just get to walk through, even though everyone knows in Little Rock who I am, and they call me by name, I take my shoes off and put them in the little plastic bucket and go through the whole drill. Now, the reason I do that is because that's the law, and they make me go through one at a time. We have porous, open borders where people jump and run across at will. That's really the fundamental problem with the immigration issue. Now, in Arkansas, we had a situation where we had kids who had been in our public schools since kindergarten. And when they had worked hard, they had made good grades. My point was this: if you want to punish their parents, that's fine. But you do not punish a child for the crime of a parent. That's just something we have not historically done.
Finally, we have about 2 minutes left. Let's talk about your position in this race for the Republican nomination. You raised just $500,000 in the first quarter, while Mitt Romney raised the most at $20 million. You're still at single digits in the polls and all the key states. How do you get from here, where you are now, to the Republican nomination? What's the Huckabee scenario? Well,
the key thing is to make sure that I continue to articulate issues that I don't think other candidates are really focused on. When I talk about education, I've got a record to back it up, but I'm talking about the importance of music and art programs to create a creative economy. People aren't talking about that, but to understand why that's important, to develop both left and right brains of kids so that there is a sense of creativity. We've got a healthcare system that needs to be called a sick care system because it has to change culturally from one in which we put the focus on disease to put a focus on health and prevention. We need to be talking about tax reform. We need to be talking about the infrastructure of our country. I truly believe, Chris, that once we get beyond sort of the how much money have you raised to what kind of issues and ideas you've raised, people will start making a real concerted effort to look at the candidates.
Real quickly, they're holding a big straw poll in Iowa in August. You have said if you don't show well there, it's going to be a tough go.
Yeah.
How well do you have to do in Iowa?
Well, I have to do...
And talk about the straw poll.
Yeah, better than expected, which means if I don't finish in the top three, if the margins of 4 and 5 are real tight together with 1, 2, and 3, then maybe I'm still in. But clearly, that's a break point, not just for me. That's going to be, I think, a break point for a number of us in the race. It's one of the reasons I'll be spending most of my summer in Iowa.
So you're saying if you don't finish in the top 3 or real close, you're out?
Well, I may not decide that, but you know, it may be that you're counted out at that point. But let's see. First of all, I think what's really critical for me is to continue focusing not on just the money chase and the money race, but the idea race and the chase, because I do think Republican voters are sophisticated enough not to turn the presidency into a plutocracy that makes it only about how much money you've raised. They want to know, do you have any ideas that bring true leadership to this country?
Governor, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for coming in on this holiday weekend, as well as your wedding anniversary. We apologize to Mrs. Huckabee for taking you away from her.
I think she's grateful. 33 years of me, and she's probably glad I'm gone for the weekend.
Well, get back home and make it good, and safe travels on the campaign trail, sir.
Thank you, Chris.